The first thing to understand about DMZ is how the infill works, because that's what you're going to go into every match with. I just had a disconnect, so I don't have anything loaded in. This is how you will start initially. You have your armor carrier, gas mask, kill streak, self-revive, which can be held on your soldier when you leave a DMZ match, and they'll carry over to the next match. And you can get a 2 armor plate or a 3 armor plate, regular gas mask, durable gas mask, and then every varying streak along with a self-revive. You also start off with a small backpack, but you can loot a medium backpack, which allows you to stow extra items, just like Warzone, and an extra weapon. So if you're going to want to hold 3 weapons, you will be able to do that on your primary loadout and then the one that's stowed. A large backpack also exists, which gives you additional storage spots. And then you get the loadout here where you can select a weapon of your choosing with what they called an insured slot. You can make this any weapon you want with whatever you've leveled. And then you get these contraband stash weapons that as you extract with more weapons than you brought in, this will continue to fill up. Unfortunately, this is only at 20, doesn't have a lot of utility, and is kind of buggy at the moment. So if I go and select this one to destroy, it may choose that one, it may choose that one. But if I go ahead and select this X12, you can go ahead and see that this pops up with the EBR. I don't want to destroy my EBR, which has full attachments. You go ahead and kind of fill that out. You try to get a variety of different weapons. You don't just want to pick up the AK-74Us that are kind of just posted all around. So you could either decide to just continue to use these or go with an insured slot if you want to do that. Just keep in mind that if you die on a run with an insured slot weapon, it takes 2 hours to get that weapon back, which could be cut down with cash extraction. So after 1 extraction, you could have the opportunity to get your insured weapon. And you could also get it at the 2nd and 3rd insured slot, but that requires you to complete tier 3 of every faction or tier 5 of every faction to get the 3rd one. One important side note about field upgrades is they're not all available here. There are some that you can get in game that you'll be able to carry on to future matches. One is the self-revive gun. That one's probably the most important if you're playing solo. If you're playing in a group, not necessarily as big a deal, especially if you guys all get self-revives. Then you have the keys, which you're going to be able to only hold up to 20 keys, and there's probably like 70 keys on the map or more. So you kind of just want to get the big ones with the icons. There are some ideal ones that you really got to be aware of, which is the Satik Poppy Farmer house key. This one you can find out in the wild, but also by completing missions, you're going to unlock this as a reward. So when you go to the factions on yours, you're going to start with tier 1. It's currently bugged like many things in the game where I can't show you all the other ones I've completed, but I completed tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 to unlock tier 4 for the Legion. Keep it in mind that when you go to the last little icon here, it says complete 5 missions in Legion 4 to unlock that mission. So you don't need to do all 6 that are on the screen. You only need to do 5 out of the 6 that are on the screen, and then you'll unlock this one, which can unlock the next tier. So right here for this tier 3 of the White Lotus, I've completed 1, 2, and 3. If I complete both of these, then I'm going to get access to this last one without having to do this one. So you kind of just leave whichever one you think is going to be the most difficult. You can kind of skip it, go back to it later, but you can see they reward different things. There's a variety of things. Obviously, in this one, you're getting XP as well as a specific key. This one, you get a blueprint plus XP. You get a contraband weapon. You get the Satik Poppy Farmer key, so that allows you to get access to that. So you might need to do that one before doing the other one that requires that. And you can kind of see how those pan out. And you need to get Legion and White Lotus both to level 2 before you're able to unlock Black Mouse. Keeping in mind that these are more of the harder challenges in general. It can be a little bit different and you know, there's a lot of variables there, but you're going to kind of just do straightforward. Choose 3 that you think you can do within a match. Focus on those. You're going to get a little bit more experience in the game. And as time goes on, you're going to have a better grasp on how and when and where you need to do specific contracts. You'll get a better overall understanding of how the map works. So now that you're loading into the match, you got your challenges, you got your loadout, all that goodies set up. DMZ, when you load in, it's supposed to start with 66 players, whether that's 22 teams of 3 or a bunch of solos. It's supposed to be 66 players, which is less than half of that of the BR because you kind of utilize the map. There's tons of AI. So as you spawn in, kind of get a little mental note of where the spawn is because they use the same spawns over and over and over and over again, and you'll tend to run through, it feels like the same 10 or 12. So the spawns are important because if you're going to move from that location, you know there's a spawn directly to your right when you spawn in, you know that you're probably going to run into someone if they're heading in the same direction. And the same goes for going in the opposite direction or going towards the middle. There's always going to be these interesting dynamics where it will create these emergent gameplay where you could party up, you could friend request, you can do all these things, you can go head to head, you could down them, force them to join you. I mean, there's a lot of things that you can do in this game mode that make it really unique and interesting. So now that we've loaded into our spawn location, you're going to want to prioritize armor. And there's a couple different things you can do. Obviously, if you shoot armored enemies in the head without breaking the armor, it's going to give you the armor plates that are on their body. Not all enemies are armored, so you can go ahead and fight tons of unarmored enemies that are taking away your plates, and you will not get new plates. So that's kind of unfortunate. So looting obviously is a key there, but you could also prioritize getting to a buy. Plates are very inexpensive, and you can stock up the same way that you would in Battle Royale. Take up a couple slots until you feel comfortable, and then you kind of just move around the map smartly doing your individual missions. Keeping in mind that the missions you select, there's a little bit of a cross progression for like 95% of them. Meaning that if you and your friend going at the same time have the exact same challenges, if they do a challenge where they need a kill and you get the credit for it, for about 95% of the missions, there are a couple that are bugged here and there or require the individual to get the kill. But for the vast majority, if you go in with somebody, you guys will get cross progression, activating a tower or collecting items, depositing items, extracting with items. So if you guys have that and you're like, that would take a couple times if it was just me, you guys can split the load there. So obviously plates are important, but one plate is not nearly enough, nor is the tiny backpack that they give you to start off with. So we're going to want to upgrade that. And the key is to learn where the high value loot areas are. And probably the two most notable are going to be airport and the train. Depending on your spawn, you might be nowhere near there. Strongholds also have loot, but those can be challenging if you don't have the loot to go in there with. You could loot, do some contracts, and then buy them. That's probably the least efficient way to get those, unless you just have terrible RNG and cannot find them. There's usually a 2-plate vest in lockers. Rare RNG, you'll get a 3-plate. Backpacks are very much the same. Got to go ahead and ping that stuff for your teammates so you can get that looted, and it just makes it so much easier to go around. You have more spots for plates. You can hold a self-revive, an extra weapon. You don't get destroyed nearly as quick with the 3-plate that you would a single plate. So I would say that you can go to the airport, which is in the bottom right hand of the map, or the train. You can kind of see it moving around the map. Beyond that, like I said, strongholds, and there's a few other high value loot, but again, it's RNG. You're not even guaranteed those things by going to the high value loot. You're just going to increase your odds. But keep in mind that a lot of people know about these spots, so they can be contested. Now you're more than likely to run into at least one team at either of those locations or one of these random areas around the map. Quick little side note, if you're enjoying today's video, please do me a favor, hit the like button and subscribe with notifications on. So there are different types of enemies. You got your standard enemy that just run around. They're kind of, you can kill them with one shot pretty much to the head. There are some a little bit tougher enemies that are armored, and then they are easy to kill. You can still kill them pretty much in the head. They'll have softer armor. Then there's like a tier 3 operator armor where these guys are tanky and they will destroy you if you're not challenging smartly. And then you have some high value targets, which they kind of have their own armor, but they're not necessarily as tanky. I don't know. It's kind of a weird thing, but those are done through contracts. You select them, or you could just find them around the world. They're just high value targets. And then you have currently you have the different commanders. So you have the Helo commander. When you do an intel contract, they'll automatically spawn in somewhere. If you land a bullet, even if they're like 1,000 meters away, they'll come in your direction. You can destroy them. They'll drop some high value loot. You have the Juggernaut, which also spawns from that, or it'll be kind of in the center of the map towards the observatory area. And that's where they'll spawn. Or probably the most popular one that people are going after, which is the Chemist. Keep in mind that the ones on the ground have a DDoS effect now. It didn't initially, but I guess too many people are just running over the Jug and the Chemist easily. So now they have a DDoS effect. You're going to have to play a little bit smarter, which requires you to get the other loot before you get there in case you want to extract one of the cases, and you can do that and you get rewards for each of those. And there's usually like stronger enemies in those areas. You get in, get out, and kind of go from that area. Another thing is, if you're ever nervous if people are around, you kind of want to identify where the AI are, or friendly or unfriendly operators are. You can identify the UAV towers, hit them up. They take a couple seconds to activate. They'll pulse for a good amount of time, and they'll give you a good, clear indication of how clear your area is. And it's very unlikely for someone to sneak up when that is the case. Keep in mind that you will notify everyone in the lobby that you have activated but generally I've activated tons, and I don't get anyone pushing me because they know that I can see them. It's just something you keep in mind. If they did turn off, then somebody might be in that general area. The other nice thing is if you need to do a specific challenge in a specific area, you continue to utilize the same one. It does have a short cooldown where it turns off, you'll be able to turn it back on, and it kind of just continues on its thing. So that's a very smart way to do it. Now you've done your missions, you've got your upgrades, you've completed whatever challenges you want, you need to exfil. This is the interesting part because you get 5 different ways to exfil in this game. You have the 3 base randomized exfils. When you load in the 3 random locations, it's always the same like locations that they choose from, but there's only 3 locations per map when you spawn in. Then if the zone expands, you can see from the radiation zone where the chemist is hanging out, you'll go ahead and as soon as those get hit, they're unusable. And there'll be a far edge of the map. On the far side of the expanding, there'll be a final extract zone, which is relatively empty most of the time because most people have tried to get out of there, or they've died, or something along the lines where they just didn't make it. But that one's like 35 minutes deep into the match. You got 25 minutes for the start and then 10 minutes for the zone or the gas or the radiation to expand. The fourth one, which is more of a secret-ish one until you've done more missions, when you do a hostage rescue mission, it will allow you to go in, get the hostage, secure them, and then when you take that to a unique exfil, the exfil vehicle comes in, you got to walk the hostage on there because you have to carry them. Can't use your weapons, I guess, maybe unless you have a pistol or something. You drop them on, and then the helicopter immediately takes off. So you exfil that way, and that one's kind of hidden. It's not like a known one. So if there's some high value loot where maybe you want to get that done, you could always do that. Position yourself like, all right, let's do this in a group, and then nobody will know where this secret area is versus another one that's in the far off. So there is that balance to it. The other part is when you are exfilling, if you have specific challenges where you need to exfil with a tactical or a lethal or a field upgrade or even a self-revive or streaks, you can actually stow those from your players on soldier inventory and then put those in your storage, and then you will be able to secure those and they'll count towards your rewards. Obviously, you won't be able to carry them into the next match if you stow some of those things, but those would give you progress towards your rewards. And I did that a lot when I was trying to do some of the lethals and tacticals. Use munitions, stow, and you kind of just rack up those quantities so you can have like 17, 18 lethals in your inventory or whatever the case is. There is currently a bug which I think will be patched, but on the way of your exfilling, if someone with the weapons case happened to exfil during that one, you have a space that's empty, you spam your interact button that you'd normally pick stuff up with, and it will actually give you progress on that. And obviously there's 7 different rewards and then rewards beyond that as well. I just haven't done a bunch of those to know the final results, but this kind of gets you started where you can take advantage of those stuff and you get a free weapons case out of it where you didn't have to fight for it. You didn't have to kill anyone to retrieve it. Kind of like a sneaky way to take advantage of a bug that exists, because there are a lot of bugs currently within the game. Also, one other thing about the extractions that it doesn't really tell you can extract from any part of the vehicle as long as you're on the vehicle. So from the top, you can hang from the side, or you could be from the inside or on the nose. So with all these things, you're going to get a ton of weapon XP. There's currently some weapon money glitches or whatever like that. I'm sure a lot of those will get patched, but this mode as a whole is still pretty good for getting XP. You can kill a ton of AI. Contracts help a ton. Buying anything from the store rewards XP. There's so many different ways to gain XP in this game. You can level up guns pretty quickly if you're trying to level up a specific one. The other part of that is the weapon progression isn't necessarily tied to the standard model. So if you want the Lockman sub, you don't have to use the other Lockmans to unlock it. One of your friends can drop it, or someone in match, if you happen to loot it and exfil with it, it will be unlocked on your actual operator in multiplayer, Warzone, and DMZ if you're looking to make a loadout. So that's one way to do it. The same way with the M13, if you get the thing from the chemist, you can have your friend drop the actual blueprint or their insurance version and exfil immediately. As long as you have that when you exfil, it'll give you access to that new weapon. So if you're like, ah, man, I don't want to use this weapon to unlock it to this one, because it is kind of tedious, even though it is pretty fast. It is a tedious process if you only want to use like 3 or 4 different weapons without using the other 12 weapons to unlock those 3 or 4 weapons, right? So you can do that. Playing in a party is going to make this significantly easier, just because when you get downed by AI randomly, you don't have to waste self-revive. The interactions with the teams, It's a little bit easier to party up with randoms when you're a 3-person. Maybe you down one and say, hey, let's group up. You'd be a 6-player party. The proximity chat, if you see any proximity chat, it's right around 50 to 55 meters where that'll kick in, which is relatively close. So you'll kind of have a good idea of how far the person is from you. And there's so much content coming. Appreciate all the support. Thank you for watching. As always, have a great day.